Hello, Hank Brigman here with your video touch pointer. Today, question 7 in our series of 10. How do I conduct a valued touchpoint workshop? And these mapping workshops are so important. These are the differentiators. So many organizations can establish their identity, that competency. They can define who they are and what they're about. Many organizations can develop the intelligence competency. They can get the right information to the right people at the right time. But the iconic companies, the great customer-centric organizations, they're consistently who they are across all of their customer touch points. And how do they do that? Through workshops, through mapping workshops. I call them valued touchpoint workshops because the goal is to develop value for both the customer and the organization. But it doesn't matter what you call them, mapping workshops, touchpoint workshops. The goal here is to, 1, identify your touch points. If they exist, you may be developing a new set of touch points where this stage may not be relevant. But let's say we're working with an experience that already exists. We're going to identify our touch points. We're going to map them sequentially. We're going to evaluate them. How are we doing at these touch points based on our customers' needs, wants, and what they would value at this touch point? What are they trying to accomplish at this individual touch point? And we do that for all of the touch points. Then we look at what are we doing well and what are our opportunities for improvement. So that's the evaluation stage. Next, we want to brainstorm. If we could eliminate all the barriers, if we could eliminate all the factors, if we had a blank canvas, how would we deliver this experience? How would we deliver these touch points? If there were no restrictions whatsoever, financially, staff, technology, what would we do with this experience, with these touch points? And this can be a very creative aspect of this workshop. And here the goal is to generate quantity of ideas. We're not going to evaluate them. We're not going to pressure test them. We're not going to say, no, that's not a good idea, or that's a bad idea. We just want lots of ideas. It's in these brainstorming sessions that sometimes interesting ideas come that can then be molded and grown into something that's really relevant and we can work with and we can apply to do great things. After we brainstorm, now it's time to get down to the real work of designing this new touch points, this new experience, this new component of the customer journey. And we have 2 outputs here. We want to standardize our touch points, so we're going to set standards. That is the minimal level of performance at each and every touch point. Because the opposite of inconsistent, which as we remember is the core customer experience problem, is standards. Standardizing. So we're going to standardize each touch point in terms of the minimal performance we're going to deliver. And the second output is best practices. We want to capture from the people in the group what they're doing at these touch points that are especially customer-centric. What they say, what they do, what the customers respond well to, that's what we want to capture as best practices and share those so that the people that we train subsequent on this new touch point, on this new experience, they understand the standards, but we also have best practices if time allow, or if the customer's a VIP, or if that's just our nature, if we're a person that wants to always deliver above and beyond. Lastly, we're going to develop measurement plans, implementation plans, and communication plans. So we've designed our new touch points. We now need to implement them. We need to train the people that are going to be involved in delivering them. We need to measure results. Where are we going to measure? And we need to communicate this internally to our fellow colleagues. And at this point, we also need to get kind of approval if you're in a large organization. Again, we talked about the customer council and that governance layer. They need to understand what this workshop is working on, make sure it fits with other workshops, what they may be doing, and that it fits with the overall customer journey, and approve these implementation, communication, and measurement plans. That's a workshop. There's lots to it. And so much of it is in my book, Touchpoint Power. That's the focus of the book, how really to do these workshops that differentiate the organization. But let's talk about the roles in these workshops. We have a facilitator. That's the person who's going to capture the output, who's going to shepherd this group along to produce their output. You want producers. These are the people that are going to provide the input that becomes the output. You have support members of the workshop. It may be that as a part of the workshop, we need to get some research done. We need to ask some questions, or we need to do some digging and to understand some facts around a specific touch point. So we may If your organization is large enough, has perhaps a market research person or a market research department, a support member may come in for a short period of time, answer some questions, and they're not a part of the ongoing group. Perhaps the most important member of the group is what I call the customer. Best case scenario certainly is we engage and involve real customers in this process. That's the best scenario, and I highly encourage that, especially when we're doing the evaluation, when we're capturing customers' needs, wants, and what they value. But if that's not doable, if that's not reasonable, then what we need to do is get an employee, a staff member, to play the customer. And they need to stay in that role so that we have producers, and at the table at all times we have somebody who's the voice of the customer. An interesting dynamic that typically happens here is the producers will eventually ask this colleague of theirs, who's now the customer, questions. What do you think of this? How would you respond to this? And this becomes a great dynamic because really to get the best touch points, there needs to be a little friction. The customer wants things more their way. The company sometimes needs things more their way. It can be too costly to do some of the things that a customer may want. So this friction is sometimes good in terms of finding middle ground and understanding where we can deliver the best touch point that both meets the needs of our customers while also serves our business interests. So that's an important role. So we have these steps of this workshop where we're going to identify our touch points, we're going to evaluate the touch points, we're going to brainstorm great ideas, we're then going to design new touch points, improved touch points, valued touch points, and then we're going to develop plans around implementation, communication, and measurement. And all along, we have this individual playing the customer who's going to provide important feedback. Again, a lot more in the book on how to conduct a valued touchpoint workshop. That's an overview. If you have questions about these workshops and how to map touch points, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. There's a lot of information on my websites. There are some products that can help with valued touchpoint workshops on touchpointpower.com. Remember, to your customers, you are your touch points. I'm Hank Brigman. Enjoy, apply, benefit, and if I can help at all, or if anybody in my organization can help, please don't hesitate to reach out to us by phone or by email. Thank you.